Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 96. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being here this Tuesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, draft about a week away. Are you ready? I don't know if I'm ready, but I'll ask you if you're ready.
Yeah, I still have, you go down some of these lists and all and start looking at some of these rankings coming into focus more, and, you figure, man, I got to go watch tape on about, I thought only maybe 10 more players. I've probably got about 30 more I got to go watch some tape on. But yeah, look, I mean, a week from Thursday, right? So we're in the final stretch right now. I just wish we had more info to work with here, but it feels like flying a little bit blind, obviously, this year. But we got some good. We'll cover some possible good info to come out from Gil Brandt on Monday here later in the show, talking about his rankings and go over a couple other things. But yeah, I'm excited. Have a couple more new Steelers players to talk about here in the very near future.
Yeah, we do. I wish we had more info. I'm sure Kevin Colbert and the rest of the NFL feels the same way, because everyone is kind of going to be flying blind to some extent, at least compared to the last 20 years, basically. By the way, just again, the feedback we got from Friday's episode from Dave T. Thomas was fantastic, as always. I know he's already answered some of the emails people have sent in, and you can send that email to scoutshonor@gmail.com. So just thank you to everyone who listened, gave feedback, and gave a shout-out to us and Dave T. and just were entertained by the episode. I think we predictably, but we always get a big response, and that's a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll try our best to get him back on after the draft there, not too long after, to talk about some of these, talk about the players the Steelers drafted.
Of course, it's going to be a draft-heavy episode of the show today. We do have a little bit of Steelers news to get to. Kevin Colbert said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, that they probably weren't going to be done signing XFL players yet, and he was true to his word, as he often is. The Steelers Monday signed Penn State wide receiver Saeed Blacknall, former XFLer of the Los Angeles Wildcats, again, Penn State native, who was kind of, not heavily involved in their offense there, but super impressive triangle numbers overall, and he's now a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at his, you put together his P-Spark score, and it's up there. Now, obviously, coming out of Penn State, he didn't put up huge stats, over the course of his college career at Penn State. What did he have? Something like 50 passes for almost 1,000 yards. I mean, a lot of long receptions in there. I think, which is good. And obviously the touchdown production based on 50 passes, heck, to catch 7 touchdowns on just 50 passes, I think says a lot. Obviously wasn't highly sought after coming out of college, was an undrafted free agent in 2018 with the Raiders. He went on to spend some time, I think, with the Dolphins and the Cardinals in 2019 on their practice squad. So he's got a little practice squad experience there. I don't see where he's got a lot of special teams experience overall. I haven't dug real deep into him. I mostly looked at the stuff that he did in I think the 3 games that he played in. I think he had a thigh injury or a hip injury in the XFL that prevented him from playing in a couple of those games. But in the 3 games that he did play in, he caught 4 passes for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. So definitely a guy that can get down the field. Looks like he tracks the ball well in the air over the shoulder. That's one thing that stuck out to me there. And then obviously got some straight line speed as well, and some good agility. So look, you never say never about these guys. If there's one thing that we've learned over the years, really shouldn't discount any one of these guys. Obviously he's going to it's going to be a long path, a hard chore for him to make the roster, but we've seen less talented players, I think, at least from an athletic profile standpoint, make it.
Sure. I mean, he's got the profile to win in shorts in camp and in any sort of off-season setting, whatever that ends up being. I mean, obviously we don't know exactly how things are going to go by the time football resumes. But yeah, I mean, he's got that big playability, the great athleticism. And I can't tell if this team's trying to build a basketball team or a track team in the receiver room, because they're all 6'2", that run well. I mean, Deion Kane and Anthony Johnson and Blacknall now, and I mean Custis isn't a particularly great athlete, but a big dude. So they're looking for size at receiver. There's no doubt about that.
Could that be a little bit of a hint for us? That that's the kind of maybe receiver that they're looking for. In the draft here. That'll be one thing to look at. Look, I mean, we know they're going to want a sparky dude.
Mm-hmm.
So and probably as versatile as possible here. So I mean, you look at some of the positions that they've added from the XFL. Overall, that could be a sign of it'd be fun to look back to see if those were the positions that wound up being drafted as well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, they definitely could go big. That's kind of been their more recent history. But could they eventually go find the yin to their yang and maybe go with a smaller guy? I mean, again, I look at the slot and say, who is your kind of prototypical slot receiver? Obviously, Juju's a great slot receiver. He's a new age guy, a big dude. But could they find someone that's kind of more the traditional mold and go in a different direction as opposed to adding another big guy to the roster? I don't know, but that'll be interesting to find out what direction they go in, assuming they draft a receiver.
I don't know how many more XFL players they're going to add, but I mean they're what, about 72 or 73 on the roster about right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves obviously you're going to have six or so drafted players. Probably a good 10 or 12 undrafted free agents. So maybe there'll be another signing or two forthcoming here before the draft takes place.
Yeah, we'll see, and we'll certainly let you know if they add anyone else. And again, I think there is certainly some value this year, especially because Kevin Corbett talked about the uncertainty of evaluating UDFAs. He proposed a 10-round draft, which does not appear to have any sort of traction, but proposed it nonetheless. But they signed a bunch of AF guys last year. They signed 6 or 7. So I think had this offseason been quote-unquote normal, they still would have been signing multiple of these XFL players.
Yeah, at least these guys recently played some football. They have a little bit of experience and of course obviously should be in shape coming out off of that as well too. So whenever an off-season program if it does get started, at least they should be able to slide right in there and get busy with it as well too. So look, I mean the odds obviously, like we say every year, are long on these kind of players, but we have seen one. Just look back last year at Cameron Kelly was a prime example of one that when he was signed, you look at his numbers and all, and look at the league that he came out of and say, yeah, probably got a tough path, but he ended up making it.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the XFL not going to make it. They filed for bankruptcy yesterday, I believe it was, or recently at least, and they've laid off all staff. I think that was late last week when that news was passed along. Of course, the league's been on pause since the coronavirus pandemic really began in mid-March. So XFL, unfortunately, probably not going to see a second season even after the world kind of calms down.
Yeah, and, it's unfortunate that they're not able to get some sort of, quote-unquote, I guess, minor league going. I mean, we've back-to-back years now. We've seen failures of the AFL and the XFL. I think now the only way they're ever going to get anything like this to survive would be overseas. I think you'd have to have something like the World League, or in NFL Europe or something like that, make a comeback. I think that's the only way that you're going to get something to flourish, because look, I mean the game's a lot bigger now than it was 20 however many years ago the NFL Europe was, which I guess that'd be about 25 years ago roughly.
It still was running into the early 2000s, right, when it ended. I mean, I don't know when it started. It started probably over 20 years ago.
I'll have to go back and look, but anyway, look, I mean the game's bigger over there overseas now. I think at least from a attendance standpoint, I think it would do fine. I think I don't think the broadcasting, the TV broadcasting, I don't think it would do any worse than what the XFL just did. So personally, I think that's probably going to be the only way that we see minor league football survive.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I just think the only way that any league has a chance to survive long term is the NFL has to be its financial investor and its backer. in a true minor league style, not a quasi thing where the NFL feeds off of them but doesn't really support them financially in any way, as is in the case of the AAF and the XFL. So I just think, because it's so funny that, the most popular sport in America that still does well in the ratings, they just can't survive financially. And I think that's what's obviously doomed all of these leagues. Obviously, the XFL got stuck with just horrible timing of it all, but I think they have to basically be that true minor league where the NFL is investing in them as the only way they can survive feasibly long term.
Yeah, the XFL's ratings were kind of dropping off weekly there, but it would have been interesting to see them make it through, a full season there, which obviously they didn't. But would it have gone belly up anyways? Who knows? But personally, I mean, look, the NFL Europe, I forget even. I had to go back and research how that was even funded. Obviously, the NFL.
The NFL funded that.
NFL had a hand in that, to some degree, obviously. But I personally, I think that's the only way you're going to get. I mean, because these two recent failures right now, I think it's going to be a while before we see any kind of startup happen.
Fair. Yeah. I think either you can't be independent, or if you do, you have to present a radically different game. You can't present, the XFL had a couple tweaks that were interesting, but it was still basically NFL football. You'd have to do something like Arena League, where it's a vastly different game with a different market, maybe a different audience, compared to just quote unquote, regular NFL football. But I just don't think you'd be independent and survive long term in today's world.
Yeah, but I think if fans had more kind of felt like more were vested more in it. Example, okay, this team is the minor league team of the, have like 3 parent clubs or something, and you could actually watch your favorite NFL team's players, develop, in those games. I think that would catch the fans the NFL-based fans a little bit more, because you say, oh, well, they got 10 guys on that team that are property of the Steelers, so it'd be fun to break those guys down. I think you just would have a little bit more fan participation if they felt like their favorite NFL team had X amount of stake in it from a player developmental standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, but that would assume that the NFL in this theoretical league are working together, and the NFL is funding it, right, in some capacity.
Right. And I think we've now officially spent way too much time talking about the.
I think we talked about it longer than the XFL actually existed for. All right, so let's get off of that. Let's move on to the draft here, Dave. I'll leave it up to you. Where do you want to start? We got Gil Brandt's top 150, which I know was your absolute favorite thing in the world, and I think it's really informative as well. Also, I dropped my next to last mock draft this morning on Steelers Depot. Which one do you want to talk about first?
I don't know. Which one would play into the other one better?
Let's do my mock first, and then we'll jump into Gil Brandt's top 150, and you tell me about how bad my picks were here compared to what Gil Brandt has to say. All right, so for my mock draft at 49, and I'm starting to really come around on this one in terms of at least what I think could happen or what the Steelers would be interested in. So I had the Steelers going Michael Pittman Jr., a wide receiver from USC at 49 overall. We've talked about Pittman Jr. a lot, but the more I look at this, Dave, the more I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, look, I mean, he is a guy that you think the Steelers would possibly like from a obviously from a NFL bloodline standpoint, from a character standpoint, from a production standpoint, from a athletic profile standpoint. Really, I mean, he's got a lot of boxes checked there. The only thing that bugs me the most about Michael Pittman is really his overall tape selection and looking at contextualizing a lot of his targets from last season. I'm just not seeing as a player that really wows you as much. Doesn't have that one defining characteristic. I don't think. He got downfield a little bit. At least in the games that I looked at, a lot of those were some blown coverages, bad defensive calls, kind of thing. Now he is a good route runner. I will give him that. He's good at running those curls and those comebacks. Very disciplined. I think he might be one of the better route fully rounded route runners in this draft. from that standpoint there. Obviously, he's got some size and all. I think you even said, look, this guy helped out a little bit more on special teams than maybe we probably thought this same time about a month ago there. So that obviously is going to give him a leg up as well. So when you look at matching up where Pittman is kind of expected to go, according to what Gil Brandt latest rankings, 46 overall ranked by Gil Brandt, so that puts him right there in the wheelhouse there of the pick. So I certainly understand this, and it's hard to really push back much on this selection.
Yeah, the mantra for this whole draft, really, especially early, is guys that you feel like you know, because it is, as we mentioned at the top, so hard to get information on players this year compared to others. So USC guy, Lynn Swann, not the AD anymore, but was the AD for several years when Pittman Jr. was there. Just a USC guy in general. I had a good track record of that, drafting Juju. And then, of course, the bloodlines, where Michael Sr. was a running back in the NFL for a long time, and also, by the way, was with Mike Tomlin in Tampa Bay from 2002 to 2005. When Tomlin was the DB's coach and Pittman was a running back, and obviously, sure, they knew each other pretty well. So you just feel like you know the family, you know the person. And yeah, there's an element of versatility, not necessarily in offense, because we talked about his James Washington disease, where he's only a one-side guy, but really good at special teams. 17 career tackles, 3 block punts. I think was named like special teams player of the year for USC once or twice. So this is a guy that can make an impact not only as a receiver, but on special teams right away and do that really well.
I think really the only one other kind of minor look, he was side specific. We saw that with James Washington.
Right. But it didn't stop him from drafting James Washington.
Right. Didn't stop him from drafting him. I mean, James Washington was clearly that's just I don't think Pittman's a guy that's going to last on the board to you to 100 and whatever, 2 or whatever. Yeah. There. So, and we have seen the Steelers, if they like a guy, they will they'll draft him, a little earlier. I think really some of the 3 major drawbacks on him is where is the wow in his tape, the side specific. Being kind of side specifics, a little bit of a negative, and then really his age. I think he's going to be. I think he turned something like 23 in October or something. So that would be the other thing. But I mean, he does check a lot of the other boxes. He was a captain too, wasn't he? I think he was at USC. I don't remember specifically, but he was obviously at the Senior Bowl, right?
Yeah, he was. He had an ankle injury partway through, missed the last day of practice, couldn't play in the game, but he was at the Senior Bowl, yes. So they know that. Yeah, I believe he was a team captain, and also he was one of 2 receivers to check every box in our what they look for study. So another feather in his cap.
Well, there you go. Well, once again, like I said, I mean, I'm not going to push back to. It's easier at this point in the process to poke holes in the negatives,
poke away. There's criticism.
But overall, when you look at the players that we think might be there, and I emphasize think because it's all a guessing game. But guys that check a lot of boxes, he's definitely in that wheelhouse there. So yeah, no huge argument from me at in the second round with that pick.
And I think there's a good chance he will be there just because of the depth of the receiver class. I mean, you're going to see so many guys go ahead of him. I mean, just the Judys and the Ruggs and the CeeDee Lambs because, they're the top guys. So Pittman in a different year might not be there at 50 because he might be a top 3 receiver in this class, but in a really strong class, it might push him down a little bit. So I think he's got some pretty good odds of being there at pick 49. 102 is probably the one that surprised me the most and probably the one that's going to anger the most people. And judging on the comments I looked at briefly before we started the podcast, I think that has angered many people here. But my thought overall was that you had to get guys with versatility in this draft because you only have 6 picks, assuming they don't trade down. I'm working with 6 picks in this mock, and you better get someone that can wear a lot of hats, that can plug a lot of holes in just one guy. And to me, that's Anthony Jennings, the outside linebacker from Alabama, who I have the team taking at 102 overall. He can play off-ball, did that at Alabama, did that at Senior Bowl, can be an edge guy. The ceiling is not super high, but he's a very technically refined, ready-to-play pass rusher, a senior, decent production. And again, in an offseason where you're going to lose so much time in the spring, you won't be able to work in rookie minicamp and OTAs and all that. You want guys who are ready to play right away. And I think Jennings is a guy who could be the number 3 rotational rusher basically day one.
What is I haven't taken a deep dive on him. He's one of them that in this last week I want to go a little bit deeper on. What's the first thing that's going to jump off the tape at me when I turn on Jennings tape?
Average to below average athlete on the negative. On the plus side, a refined pass rusher with a very good pass rush plan and hand use. On
Okay.
the positive side of things. So again, I'm not saying this is, I mean, he's not as upsidey as Darrell Taylor or Curtis Weaver or probably whatever other edge rusher you want to throw in here, but he's someone, I mean, you got an inside linebacker issue, you got an edge issue, and Jennings theoretically could be able to work in both. Plus, Carl Dunbar knows him because he was at Bama when Jennings played there. And so, yeah, I think he's a guy that can help you right away as potentially an inside linebacker backup and an outside linebacker number 3 edge rusher.
Are you seeing where Gil Brandt has him on the list? Admittedly, when I put this thing together and printed it out, I did so in too small a font.
I don't recall seeing his name, but
I'm not seeing him in the in the top 150 of Gil Brandt here.
Doesn't look like he's listed in top 150. No.
All right. Why would sticking with Alabama there and just taking your temperature on what you've seen on Terrell Lewis, the edge from Alabama, could that be a kind of an alternative?
Yeah, it could be. Again, I went with Jennings mostly because of that versatility, because he can be an off-ball guy and an edge guy, and so that's my thought process there. But you could go with a true edge guy here, and I wouldn't fight you for it. And I'm sure most people would prefer had I put Darrell Taylor or Terrell Lewis or whoever in that column. But I just trying to think about that thought process of, okay, how do I address both inside linebacker and outside linebacker? I only have 6 picks to do it. Maybe get one guy who could potentially do both.
You pulled a Dave and you overthought this one.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to focus on versatility with only 6 draft picks and trying to fill all these needs.
Yeah, but maybe not. Well, maybe not so much at this one particular position. But I get it. I think I would have been less surprised if I saw a guy like Lewis or Darrell Taylor there.
Well, I mean, I like you got to throw a surprise in there somewhere, I think, and he fits. I mean, he fits as an edge rusher. I mean, as a pure edge prospect. Again, the upside might not be as high as others, but he's a really refined guy that can play right away. And Carl Dunbar knows him, and again, familiarity is going to be really important. He was at the Senior Bowl, and they're going to know this guy pretty well.
So 2 seniors back to back, huh?
Yeah. I was thinking about it more. We did our live stream yesterday. We always do on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and somebody had asked a really good question: what rule might they break in 2020? And I think this year might be a senior-focused class because you just don't know the underclassmen as well. You want to know guys that you have a lot more tape on, guys that were at all-star games like the Senior Bowl, like the Shrine Game, and so I think you want to focus on maybe more seniors than this team typically does.
Fair enough.
All right, in the 4th round, You
said you got a lot of pushback from that?
For Jennings, yeah, I got a lot of pushback for that, absolutely. And again, you want to take a pure edge guy, I totally get that. And I have one more mock draft here to maybe right the ship, so I'll go back to the drawing board for that. But I think that versatility is going to be important. In round 4, can't leave round 4 without a nose tackle. That was my thought process. So I go Rashard Lawrence, nose tackle from LSU. You can pick your favorite nose tackle here, whether that's Lucky Fotu or Devon Hamilton, whoever. But I go Lawrence. He's a squatty body, but a decent athlete with really good length. The big thing that stuck out for me about Rashard Lawrence was he was named captain of LSU after his sophomore season. So his junior and senior season. And that's tough to do right after your sophomore season on LSU, that great team, always so much talent. To be named team captain like that, I think speaks a lot about his character and who he is as a leader in that locker room. And he has a little bit of pass rush pop as well, with 9 career sacks, including 4 as a junior in 2018. So that might be your day 1 nose tackle.
Fair enough. What's the thing that's going to, when I've obviously seen just a little bit on him, but what's the thing that's going to pop out on me on the tape with him?
I think just overall run defense. I think he's more of just a plugger. The pass rush is going to be there a little bit, but he's not going to be Javon Hargrave. He's not going to be a real sub-package, heavy kind of guy, but can just maybe collapse the pocket with his bull rush and collapse the A-gap, I guess is my thought process there. But yeah, just kind of your standard fair plug-and-play plugger of a nose tackle.
I have a note here, 2018 tape, probably better than 2019 tape. Have you gone back into this 2018 tape?
No, was there an injury maybe in 2019 by chance?
I don't have that in my notes here, but now let me see. Look at some of the stats here. He had 22 run stops in 2018 versus 14 run stops. He played a lot more snaps in 2018. It looks like too. He played over 700 snaps in 2018 versus 475 in 2019. So looks like he's missed some time over the course of his career. I don't know what the injury is on him, though.
Okay. Well, either way, I think, again, I just can't see waiting till past the fourth round for a nose tackle, because that's the one position where you don't have a starter. It's the only position on the roster we don't have a starter. So I think you can't wait any longer to address it.
Okay.
Other fourth-round pick, 135 overall name we've talked about a lot. Kayvon Wallace, safety from Clemson, a guy I think has a really good chance to be a Steeler. Hearts and smarts, versatility. Again, I go back to versatility, and I think he can wear a lot of hats. He's a big box safety, as a slot, special teams guy, of course. So I don't think we'll get any pushback there. I think Kayvon Wallace makes a lot of sense here in round 4.
Do you think he'll last that long? I guess would be the only. I'm trying to think. Where did Gil Brandt have him? Do you remember?
Really high in the 80s, right? Like 88, 89. I mean, I saw that after I did my mock draft.
80. Now look, I mean, obviously, and I'll have this in my. We're fixing to talk about Gil Brandt and his rankings. Obviously, the closer you get to 100 with Gil Brandt, the more obviously, as far as being correct into his 150, there's more variance, and all. And he obviously has Kayvon Wallace 89th, but you would think, how much of a margin of error you want to give him, 30 picks or so. That would still put him at, what would that be, 119 overall. So let's even say 125 overall. So I guess it's I guess it's not unthinkable at 135th overall.
Yeah, I think 135 where I have him is on the low end of things, but I could flip him with Lawrence if you want, put him at 124 and get him right in that range, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I think 135 is about as low as he would go.
And look, safeties, if you're not one of the top safeties in the class, you tend to kind of sink down into that fourth round, generally, So, I understand it. And really, quite honestly, if you switched up Wallace and Lawrence here, and make it probably a little bit more believable to have Wallace at 124th overall and Lawrence at 135th.
Yeah, I mean, it's 9 picks. I mean, it doesn't to me. It didn't matter too much the order, but yeah, I mean, we could do that. We could put Wallace at 124. But anyway, I think the fit makes sense. He's a good athlete. Steelers really prize athletes at the position. High character guy, versatile and productive, and I think he just has really good tape.
You probably got a little bit of pushback for waiting on an offensive lineman, didn't you?
I did. I copied you here. I'll be honest. I took a cue from Dave going round 6, 198 with John Runyon Jr. I mean, I hate waiting on offensive linemen that long, but you can't wait past the 4th round for a safety. You can't wait past the 6th round or the 4th round for a nose tackle. And unless you take one of the top 2 picks, then that's the hand you're dealt. So I went John Runyon Jr. At least his team did sign Stefan Wisniewski to be an interior swing guy and have some sort of depth there, which they did not do at outside linebacker, at safety, at nose tackle. But Runyon, bloodlines, versatility, again, that's the calling card of this draft is versatility. Runyon, of course, is going to fit that as a tackle guard, capable kind of guy.
I like him. I think he's a little bit underrated overall, and I think obviously the hardest thing with Runyon is projecting that move inside.
Right.
Because look, I mean, could he be a Matt Filer type right tackle for you? Maybe in a pinch. I mean, who would ever thought Matt Filer would have,
right?
Coming out would have ended up being that guy. And I think even if the ceiling on Runyon is a career kind of Matt Filer before Matt Filer became a starter, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that's kind of what he projects to be right now.
Yep.
Overall, and to wait this long, and look, I mean, Runyon, I think even talked back at head of the All-Star game, was look, I'll learn to play center if I need to or whatnot, So imagine having a that versatile of a guy. Look, I don't think he's going to be able to survive as a tackle at the NFL level, and if his athleticism is there though, and he might be able to play some guard.
Yeah, he has played guard at Michigan. It's not a total projection. It was with the Purdue game, I think maybe a year or two ago, where someone got hurt and he played like 23 snaps at right guard. So they drafted Derwin Gray last year. He never played guard before and said you're a guard. So I think there's a better projection here with Runyon as opposed to someone like Derwin Gray. And of course the bloodlines and versatility. Yeah, I mean he's Probably not going to be ever a starter full time, but a really competent backup that can wear a lot of hats, and that's good value in the 6th round.
Yeah, going back to the All-Star game with him, which one was he? Was he in the East-West Shrine?
Ask, I think he was in the Shrine game. I think, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I kind of get confused on a couple of these guys, but immediately when I heard him talk and got the complete rundown of him right away at that All-Star game, I was like, okay, this guy could potentially fit in the later rounds.
He was a Shrine guy. He was a Shrine.
Okay, yeah, and especially if he's able to kick inside there. So really, I think the hardest projection with him is just to move inside, but he checks all the other boxes, I think.
And in the late rounds, they could draft a couple of Shrine guys because, they had coaches at the Shrine game. They had Blaine Stewart and Denzel Martin there, and getting an up-close and personal look at some of these guys, kind of knowing these guys a little bit better, is even more important in the year. We didn't get to talk to a lot of these guys. Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin didn't get to really speak and visit to these guys in a football environment aside from a combine interview where they only had 45 and it's 15 minutes, and it's not in a football environment in terms of being on field. And so I think you get to lean on those guys a little bit more in what they learned from somewhere like the Shrine game. So I could see them going Shrine game guys in the 6th and 7th round.
Oh yeah, look, I mean, what do I usually write up the same kind of article every year, especially really, obviously they don't have a 5th round pick this year, but 5th, 6th, 7th round generally are going to be seniors, and they're going to be kids that played in one of those 3 All-Star games.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well grab out, grab the rosters from those 3 games and start looking there and going down the list, because odds are good that at least their final 2 picks are going to be kids that came out of those All-Star games. Charlie Warner.
But Runyon was also at a combine, and I think I'd be and I'm going to be wrong on this, I'm sure because I'm saying it now, but I'd be very surprised if they drafted somebody who was not at the combine this year, just because they wouldn't have any medicals on him and so much uncertainty this year. And they normally draft guys who are at the combine anyway. I mean, they maybe once in every other draft they'll draft somebody who was not at Indy. But
yeah, I think the Baylor kid Roy, would be the only exception to that rule this year, possibly.
Do you just draft a guy where you don't know his medicals though, even if the talent?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much they know about his medicals.
Yeah, I mean, I assume not a lot, because when would they have gotten? I mean, I guess they could request it. I guess his agent could send some of that stuff out, but I think there's a difference between your agent manufacturing a physical and your doctors looking at the guy.
Right. I mean, well, look, the whole main component about the combine is being able to get players in one place and have the same kind of medicals run on them. So you have kind of a universal kind of system there. Right. But I mean, players do fall through the cracks. And I don't remember Roy having an injury history, so maybe that will play into what I'm getting at is if there was going to be an exception to the rule this year, it would be a guy like Roy.
Yeah, for sure. Just and you say that just because of the talent and the need factor.
Because of positional need and because of the tape and where you might be able to get him. Because I think because of he's being more of a true nose tackle, I think it's going to cause him to fall a little bit.
Right.
So I think potentially he could still be on the board 5th or 6th round. And obviously the Steelers don't have a 5th round pick, but maybe that's a situation where you go up and get a guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for 7th round, taking a fly here because I had gone pretty defensive heavy in this draft and hadn't gotten a lot of skill guys. I mean, obviously Pittman at the top, but kind of taking a fly here. Stephon Sullivan, the tight end from LSU. And again, sort of versatile here where he played receiver, got converted to tight end. Still don't know exactly where he fits best. I guess he's a tight end, but he's just such a long, leggy, type guy with a really thin lower half. But a guy that can win contested situations, can be that kind of move tight end that they're attracted to with the signing of Eric Ebron and to some degree Vance McDonald as well. So definitely a stash guy, definitely a project, but there's a year to take a project. I guess it's this one.
You just did this just to kind of take your glove off and slap me in the face, didn't you?
What?
Because Charlie Warner fits a lot better in that spot than.
I'm going to go for. If I'm going to take a shot in the round, let me go for upside. Let me go for a ceiling guy.
Right.
Charlie Warner would be a good pick, but Sullivan definitely has a bigger ceiling.
I wasn't thoroughly impressed.
I mean, there's a lot of issues. He's got a much higher. He's a boomer bust guy. Like he could follow the league in a year and it wouldn't shock me. He could become something and it wouldn't shock me either.
I think here's the thing. I think you know more about what you're getting with if you talk about lower risk. I think you know more about what you're getting with a guy like Charlie Warner versus a guy like 100%. Sullivan.
Oh, yeah, and that's not my argument. My argument is not that Sullivan is a safer pick. He's the much riskier pick, but let's throw a dart at 232 and see what happens as a stash guy. But I mean, he's a good story too, a good character. Was at the Senior Bowl, was at the Combine. Grew up in some really tough situations, a really tough childhood. So he's a guy that I think will also check those hearts and smarts. The issue, of course, is just where does he fit and lack of productivity. Like Joe Burrow threw 50 touchdowns last year. I think Sullivan caught maybe one of those, and the dude just didn't see the field a whole lot playing behind Thad Moss. So that's the worry with Sullivan. But I mean, there's upside there.
When you look back at this point, it's not only the fact that they have just 6 picks, it's where these 6 picks fall.
Yeah, that's one in the top 100. That's tough.
That makes it extremely tough, because not only you no first round pick there, so that automatically has you waiting and wondering what's going to be left on the board when your second pick. And not only that, but like you said, your other picks outside of the top 100, and then you look at the whole, the perceived holes and the different ways you can go, and the thought process of, look, if you don't get an offensive lineman, in the second round or by the third round, you're probably going to wait,
Mm-hmm.
Because the value, I mean, to me at least, interior offensive lineman, I mean, it drops off quick after a top 100, goes, and then, trying to make sure you address like a safety in the middle rounds,
Yeah.
and a defensive nose tackle in the middle rounds, it kind of pigeonholes you into a certain group of players as well,
Mm-hmm.
too. So, I mean, look, not much pushback. I mean, obviously we had discussions about it, and we discuss all of these things, but I can see why Jennings would probably be the guy that got you the most pushback here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that surprised me the most too. But I just wanted to kind of do something a little different. I think I got to do something different in these mocks.
Right. I mean, had you mocked any of these guys before?
Not in my last one. I think maybe in prior ones along the way. But in terms from 3.0 to 4.0, it's a whole new list of players. So I kind of took your approach to it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And that's one thing I wanted to try to do on my last one too, was, because I mean, it's so easy, especially in a year like this year,
Mm-hmm.
to go stick with the guys that you know.
All right. Or the guys we talk about all the time. And I don't want to get so hyper focused on just 3 names in this draft, like Weaver and Taylor, and focus on only those guys, because who knows what could happen this year.
Mel Kiper has Jalen Hurts going to the Steelers in the second round of his latest mock draft.
Well, time to stop listening to Mel Kiper. I mean, that time was a long time ago.
I mean, why are they continuing to do this? I mean, I guess, look, we'll be wearing a lot of egg on our face, I guess, if they draft a quarterback at all,
Yeah.
Makes
us look good, though. Makes us look smart.
I mean, are we missing anything here?
No, I mean, that's just the lazy. They're just copying other people. I mean, if you follow Pittsburgh closely, and everyone listening does, we know their thoughts on quarterback. And you disagree with it, you can say that Rudolph should not be the guy and the backup, but he is. And so they're not taking a quarterback.
I just don't see it, and really, we give Kevin Colbert a lot of credit during the pre-draft process that, pretty fairly truthful, throughout the offseason, really. And he has said time and time again, we like our quarterbacks. Mike Tomlin said they like the quarterbacks. Art Rooney II says they like the quarterbacks. So
I think they like the quarterbacks.
For them to go with a player, especially in the second round, a quarterback in the second round, assuming no other deals are made, it would be shocking to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is not Mel Kiper with any sort of special insight. It's just his own analysis and projection, which is wrong. If a cold shower doesn't solve your quarterback fever, put in Davidson in the 7th round. I like what Dave T said about, what was his name, Kevin Davidson?
Yeah,
Davidson?
the Princeton kid, yeah.
Yeah, because again, go back to the Shrine game. Blaine Stewart was, I believe, his coach at the Shrine game, and so they would know him well. So if you really want to put a quarterback in, throw Davidson in the 7th round, and you'll take care of it that way.
I mean, you want to talk about? I mean, you would be drafting a guy that I don't get it. I don't get it. But
yeah,
but
whatever. I mean, hey, it makes our mock drafts look, I think, a whole lot better, because I think it's a lot more realistic. Again, just for me, I just can't see this team waiting till past the 4th round to address nose tackle or safety. Anything deeper than that, and you're talking about guys that have a good chance of not making the team, and I don't know what you do with your nose tackle starter and your safety depth if you're investing a 6th round pick and saying that's the guy.
Alex, my Easter happened on Monday.
Okay.
Gil Brandt's Hot 150. And you know how much I love. Look, I
More
think.
your Christmas thing.
Oh yeah, the thing with Gil Brandt, and people say, man, why do you care so much about what Gil Brandt writes in these rankings here? Because the fact of the matter is, I trust them. I think they really give you a good look at where players ultimately might go. And I'm going to have another article today where I've actually gone back, Alex. So let me see if I can pull up. It's going to probably blow. I spend way too much research time on a lot of this stuff here, and now I can't even find my.
That's the problem.
Find my sheet. I got so much info here. I got too much info here. But what's while I look for it, what's the when you talk about the rankings on the Gil Brandt top 150, which he releases every year about this time, what rankings jump out the most here at you?
Yeah, the one that surprised me the most, and it's maybe a little more obscure, was Lynn Bowden, the receiver running back from Kentucky. Where did he have him ranked at? He had him a lot higher than what I expected. I can't find the exact number. 44 overall. That one surprised me. I didn't think he was going to have Bowden that high. To go through his top 5 here briefly: Burrow, Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, Justin Herbert at 4, above Tua, who's coming in at number 5. But yeah, Bowden was surprising that high. I do love the love that he showed to guys like Matt Hennessy at 34, and especially Ezra Cleveland at 23. So right there, I mean, way up there. And I think that one makes a lot of sense. And I love Ezra Cleveland. I think he's a potential next Joe Staley. So showing the offensive lineman some love in his top 150.
Yeah, absolutely here. And I can't find out what I did with hold on here, maybe it's over here.
Well,
okay, I found it here.
You got it? Okay.
Name the names that you just named again.
The biggest surprise to me was Lynn Bowden, the receiver from Kentucky at 44. That surprised me of how high that is, but I do love the love he showed to Hennessy, he's got 34th, and Ezra Cleveland at 23rd.
Do you think Hennessy has a chance to be the first really true center off the board?
Would I be absolutely shocked by it? No. I mean, I still think Ruiz is a safer bet. He's got a 47, by the way. But yeah, I think Hennessy could be up there as a first or second center taken, sure.
Here's one of the things that kind of stuck out to me about especially where the Steelers pick. You know, at their pick, guys that are kind of in that wheelhouse are kind of guys that we've been talking about through a lot of this process here. Guys like Jalen Reagor out of TCU. I don't know. T. Higgins has been mentioned once or twice, I think. Michael Pittman, who was in your mock draft today, he has him at 46 overall. Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan, the center, 47 on Gil Brandt's rankings. Denzel Mims, guy you've talked about all the way dating back to way before the Senior Bowl. He's got at 49. Justin Matabuke, a guy that you insist on throwing in there as a fit there. He has in there. And then sliding down a little bit further down at 56 overall, and Guy Winfield, a guy that I've been trying to wedge in there quite a bit. People say, "Oh, there's no way he lasts that long." Well, I don't know about that. I think that he may possibly might. So when you look at let's say guys ranked, I don't know, 41, he even has Neville Gallimore at 41 overall, and I can see him slipping down a little bit too there. So I think if you look at guys ranked 41 to say, I don't know, 58 or so on Gil Brandt's top 150, I think there's a chance one of those guys could be the guy.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I guess it's a coincidence, but a lot of those guys in that range seem to fit the Steelers. Pittman at 46, Ruiz at 47, Jordan Elliott at 48, Mims at 49, Matt Buke at 50, Ashton Davis, love that guy from Cal, at 51, Cole Kmet 54, Edwards Hilaire at 55, Winfield at 56, Hamler at 58. All guys that I think could possibly become Steelers. Some more likely than others, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think if you just took that group of guys I just rattled off, decent chance one of those guys is the pick at 49.
I agree, and we haven't talked a lot. I mean, I did a contextualization of him, but I mean, Chase Claypool fits. I mean, from an athlete, the rawness on tape is there, but from an athletic profile and a big guy and a guy that can get down and contested catch for, like that, he sort of fits as well too. So,
Yep.
and Hamler, a guy with some speed a little bit, obviously a smaller receiver there. But I really, and I think that's one of the things that stuck out to me most is the guys from, let's say, 41 to 59 on this list. I would not be surprised if the Steelers pick comes out of that list of players there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Who else surprised you in terms of just overall, maybe a guy that was higher than you thought or lower than you thought, whatever the case?
Pittman still ranked a little bit too high. I mean, I don't know. I got to go back and watch his tape again, I guess, because something's not matching up for me there. So I was a little bit shocked to see. Oh, I tell you one that jumped out last night after we got off the live stream. Albert O.
Yeah, 39.
39th. That might be one of the one, because look, Gil misses like the rest of us. I think that could be one of the misses there. Marlon Davidson. What do you know about Marlon Davidson, the edge out of Auburn?
That surprised me too. I don't know a lot. I think Gil has him set as a left defensive end. He's kind of a bigger guy. This guy said, I think he's a defensive lineman, right? He's not a stand-up guy, correct?
I think he's more of a base end, isn't he?
Yeah, there's not a lot of base ends this year. It's like Roquan Davis, James Lynch, and maybe Davidson, but that's a guy I never really got too familiar with.
That one jumped out at me. Jeremy Chin all the way down at 66. I mean, he's a small school guy. I mean, is that about where you would peg Jeremy Chin?
Yeah, I don't think that's too far off. Had a really good Senior Bowl week, but yeah, the small school stigma, the exact fit are going to be some concerns with him. What's he got Kyle Duggar at? Because that's the guy where they've kind of been lumped together. What did he rank Duggar? Is it higher?
I think lower, isn't it, or no?
Is it lower? I don't know. I'm just off the top of my head here. I don't know where he has Kyle Duggar at. Yeah.
I'm looking at some small font here.
Anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter because they're probably not.
Oh, Duggar, he's got 72 overall.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that seems fair on that one. How about Cam Akers? 107 for Cam Akers. That was lower than I expected.
That
seems about more where you thought we were.
Yeah, that's about where I thought. I tell you this, I would not have him ranked over Zach Moss. I mean, below Zach Moss, who he has Zach Moss at 106. I think Zach Moss is a little bit being overrated just a tad here. Colton McKivitz at 104. That's a little bit high for my liking there. But let's stay more in the top 100 here because that's really kind of where I like to focus I tell you one that I ran to. There were two that I went to real quick to see because they probably been the guys that have been kind of the most, I don't know, controversial or what's the other word that I'm looking
for?
Polarizing. There you go. Josh Uche, guy you and I have had a lot of talks about here.
And we'll have more discussion.
And we'll probably come on the Friday show here. 75th overall. That's probably about perfect in my eyes. Maybe even a tad high still when it comes to him. That Gil Brandt has him 75th overall, and really the other one I was in a hurry to look at as soon as it came out. Antoine Winfield. People say, no way he's going to fall here. And you and I had a quick discussion last night during the live stream when it comes to Winfield. I like him. I think he fits what the Steelers do. But for the crowd that says he's no way he's going to be on the board, what is the one defining characteristic that makes you say this guy is a slam dunk top 40 pick?
Yeah, I think my answer to that was just overall football IQ and processing and ball skills.
Which he has that in spades.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, we just answered the question then.
Okay, but I mean, is that enough?
I think that's a pretty good trait to have in a
there's some very smart kids, I mean, look, you go back to, of course, Cameron Sutton didn't have the athletic profile,
Yeah. Well, this is also a very good athlete.
Right.
With the football IQ. So you combine good athleticism with a good IQ and a safety with 7 interceptions last year. I mean, what's not to like?
You are more apt, though, to feel now. I mean, where are you at on Winfield? Are you with the crowd that no way he falls out of top 45? Or
no, I've never been in that camp.
Okay,
but I mean, I think he's going to go higher than 56, where Brandt slots him in terms of just overall value. I do think he's much more likely to go higher than 56.
So you admit there could be we could be looking at him being a Steelers pick there, right? Would it surprise you?
I mean, it would surprise me to a degree, but I wouldn't be absolutely floored by it just because it's just so hard to project these things this year.
Right. Who else on the list jumps out at you here? Those were two that I ran to. I think Brian Edwards out of South Carolina is ranked a little high at 69.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just had injuries, but muddied up his process. We'll have to have a discussion. Maybe I don't know if we want to do it for later in the show or for next show. Talking about Edwards-Helaire and DeAndre Swift. I know we watched those guys last week. I really like Edwards-Helaire. I think he's my number 2 back behind Jonathan Taylor.
Wow. Yeah, I guess now's a. Let me finish up. We'll have that discussion here. Let me finish up some numbers on Gil Brandt here that I put together. I've been tracking. I've got spreadsheets. I'd go find them out. Go fish them out last night, find out where they were.
Gil's going to file a restraining order.
Yeah, pretty damn close here, probably. I've got top, and once again, I think the most important aspect, at least that I gained from looking at Gil Brandt's rankings every year, is the top 100, not so much the top 150, because obviously the variance, the further you get down past 100, really grows, quite a bit there. But going back to 2013, okay, I have dissected every one of his top 100s going back to 2013. Last year alone, looking at Gil Brandt's top 100, of his top 32 guys that he had listed 1 through 32, 24 of those 32 ended up being drafted in the top 32.
Wow. What was the biggest faller? Do you have that kind of information?
Don't make me switch spreadsheets right now.
Right.
Obviously, I don't have that. I've got it,
okay.
But I don't want to find it right now. But let me give you his track record going back for his top 32 selections going back to 2013. These are the numbers that he's gotten right out of his top 32. And by right, I mean not the exact pick, but at least a player was drafted in the first 32. Got it?
Got it.
All right. Last year he had 24 in his top 32 were drafted in the top 32. Then 2018, 26. 2017, 27. 2016, 25, 2015, 25, 2014, 23, 2013, 24. So a 7-year average of the last 7 years of Gil Brandt's top 32 players listed 1 through 32, 25 of them on average wound up in the top 32.
That's a 78% hit rate, which is really impressive when it comes to the draft.
That's what I was going to ask you is how impressive is that?
I mean, you'd have to compare it to maybe some others, I guess, just to get a relative number. But to me, that looks pretty strong. I mean, more than 3 out of every 4 he gets right.
Right, I would agree with that. Now here's the next kind of line in the sand that I draw. His top 50. Okay, so numbers 1 through 50. How many of those guys in his 1 through 50 wind up being drafted in the first 50 picks? Last year, 41 out of 50.
Ooh.
Now, could you? There's no way. I don't think I could come close. I could try.
Oh,
but
way.
I don't think, and not cheating off of his list.
I
don't think I could get you there.
82%. It's amazing.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now let's go back all the way back to 2013 here. All right, last year 41 out of 50. 2018 40 out of 50. 2017 another 41. 2016 this is his high watermark 43. Can you imagine naming your top 50 players and having 43 of them actually get drafted in the top 50?
So why the dudes in Canton?
All right, 2015, 40, 2014, 40, and then 2013 was his low water mark of 39. His 7-year average, 41 out of 50.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, that is
what's the percentage?
And the consistency too.
Sure.
Of that. I mean, he's always around 40.
Right. I mean, like I said, the variance here was 43 to 39.
Yeah. 82% is the average.
I mean, how strong is that? Jeez.
I mean, that's better than his first round rate and his top 32 rate versus top 50. So yeah, that's why you lean on it. And that's a great way. I can't believe you did all that work. You remind me of that gif of Charlie from Always Sunny with the crazy hair. That's Dave right now with all his spreadsheets. But yeah, that you prove the value of it right there.
All right, and look, and wait, there's more.
All right.
All right, top 64, which is obviously the first 2 rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
last year of his top 1 through 64, 49 out of what's the percentage of that?
49 out of 64, 77.8%.
All right, and that was tied for his low water mark for lowest success rate over the last 7 years. Tied him with 2015. 2018, his high water mark is 54 out of 64.
Wow, that is 84%.
All right, so his 7-year average of hitting top 64 players, 51 is his average.
So let's just call it 80% for the top two.
How freaking strong is that?
You got to tweet the stuff at Gil. Make him feel good.
Yeah, well, I'm going to write about it. All of this will be available later today to write about it. I'll tweet it to him on there. But wait, Alex, order.
only pay shipping and handling.
No, you only a processing fee. Top 100 here.
Oh, wow.
All right. Last year of Gil Brandt's top 100 listed players, 83 of them. This wound up being his high water mark for 7 years. 83 of those top 100 ended up being drafted in the top 100 players there.
Amazing.
His low water mark would be 2014 of 75. His 7-year average for top 100 players was 80. So 80%.
I mean, that is almost mythical, like legendary stuff right there. To be 80%, 100 picks in. No way I could even come close to that.
There's no way. And is there anybody else that you would try to even match up against him?
I'd be surprised to see anyone even come close to those kind of numbers in terms of the projection and reality.
So what does all this mean, basically? Well, I think what it means is you really should look at Gil Brandt's top 100. Really anybody in the top, let's say 30 picks, there's just no way going to fall to the Steelers. And really, I would go as far down as maybe, 35,
Well, I'd be curious. So, what is the lowest somebody in this top 32 has ever fallen? I'd just be curious. With that.
I've got them. I mean, they're obviously there's going to be guys that jump way out. I mean, and I remember, missing by 32 or so, 32 picks or so. But, if that guy's fallen that far, there's probably good reason. The
probably
Steelers,
medical character.
Yeah, probably good reason, and probably not going to be a Steelers player anyway. Because of that there. So first and foremost, I would look at at least the top 32 and throw those kids out. Probably zero chance that the Steelers are going to get them. And I'd look hard like we did. I would look at long and hard at those guys listed. I don't know from 41 to 60. I think there's a good chance that the Steelers second round pick comes out of that list of players there. And really, I just think overall, looking at the top 100 should give everybody a fairly good idea of what's going to be on the board and then thus off the board after the top 100 picks there. So I really enjoy this every year. It really helps give me, going into my final mocks, a little bit of what I like to consider some clarity and at least some sense of security that I'm possibly placing some of these guys about where they should be.
Yeah, which is really valuable in a year like this where it's been so chaotic. To apply that first part about the top 32 to this year's class, guys Gil Brandt has in the top 32 that
Cleveland?
According to you, he's got Ezra Cleveland, Jonathan Taylor. So basically you're saying that don't expect Cleveland to fall, don't expect Taylor to fall. And those are probably the big names, Ayuk and your guy Justin Jefferson at 30 and 31 as well.
I gave up on Justin Jefferson a little while ago.
Smart move.
Who is he most likely? We look at his average of being 25 out of 32 that he hits. Okay, so look at his top 32. Okay, and tell me who most likely will fall out of that 32.
Blacklock from TCU was higher than expected, but maybe he does like an LJ Collier and goes late first round. Maybe Ayuk just because of the core muscle surgery he had and some teams being thrown off by that. And maybe Trevon Diggs, but I'm not as familiar with some of these first rounders as I would be in a normal year.
Right. What
So
about
I'd
what
say,
about
I'd
Jordan
say,
Love? What you think
nah,
a quarterback needy team's gonna get him?
yeah, I think he'll be a top 20 guy just because he might go after Herbert. I don't know, but he'll be a top 20 guy, I think.
What about it? Did you name McKinney?
Yeah, I thought about McKinney. I think Gil even wrote like what is his defining trait. I think he's listened to the podcast. But yeah, maybe McKinney from what Washington State might drop out.
Anybody else? How much of Murray have you watched out of Oklahoma?
A little, but I don't know. A good athlete like that, off-ball linebacker can cover, run and hit. I don't think he's going to fall out. My guess would be like Blacklock, maybe Delpit. Grant Delpit. A lot of rumors about him slipping, so we'll see about him.
Right. So I mean, odds are good that 6 or 7 of these guys are going to fall out of here, but I don't know. You can bet real quick right after that first round's over with. I'm gonna run back and look at some of this stuff. But
yeah, you'll have the time to do it.
Absolutely. But just fascinating. I just think for what a treasure. I know he comes out of the Cowboys organization and all like that. But what a treasure Gil Brandt is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's amazing, and that track record, the numbers you put together were awesome. And again, I can't stop staring at like that 41 to 55.
I can't either. You're right. You're right on the money there because I really from Gallimore to
Hamler. For me, it's like to Hamler at 58.
Yeah, or let's throw Claypool in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 41 to 59, right?
Yeah, the only downside is you got Jalen Hurts at 53, and everyone's been talking about how Jalen Hurts should not be a Steeler because of that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Denzel Mims, please fall to 49, Gil. Speak it into existence. I love that.
But I really like the chances of one of those guys being the pick there.
Yep, as do I.
Okay. Talk to me about why you like Clyde Edwards-Helaire over who? Swift?
Yeah, over everybody but Jonathan Taylor. I think it's even a case to make Edwards-Helaire your number one back. I mean, what I said before in our last running back discussion was I like guys who create, guys that work outside the structure of the play. They just don't get what's blocked. They don't take advantage of just big runways. And Edwards-Helaire is that shifty lateral guy. The top end speed isn't quite there, but I mean, this dude can just make you miss and create something out of nothing. And you put him behind even a decent offensive line in the NFL with his ability to create, and you're going to get big plays. He's a really good receiver. He's flexed out a lot. He's comfortable and competent there. His overall vision is strong. He's got a little bit of power. He's got that squatty body type that I think can have a leverage advantage to him being able to push the pile forward. But yeah, his overall ability to create and that versatility to me is just super impressive.
All right, I don't see him as shifty as what you do.
Really? I think that's like the number one thing about him. Man. He just makes guys look silly in open field behind the line of scrimmage.
Obviously, I think he has a little bit more shiftiness to him than guys like Taylor and J.K. Dobbins. But and I don't. How much of Swift did you watch?
A couple games. I'm looking at my notes here, flipping back. Yeah, I mean, I like Swift. I don't like him as much as Edwards-Helaire there.
I like Swift. Boy, Swift will make you miss in a heartbeat. You want to talk about a guy that can make players miss and have you grabbing at air. To me, his all around game, just everything. He's not a huge power guy, obviously, but he can break some tackles. And his ability to create and that shiftiness within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, and his ability to catch the ball and all the other things that go along with it. To me, he's the top of this class.
I just didn't like his power. I didn't like him in short yard situations. I thought he struggled.
Okay.
You like Swift more than Taylor?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
Wow. Do you have any sort of rankings of the guys we've talked about? Taylor, Akers, Swift, Edwards-Helaire?
It would definitely go Swift, and then I would probably go Taylor, and then I would tie Edwards-Helaire and Dobbins, and then Akers just not too far behind them.
Interesting. I think I have a different rankings. I would go Taylor, Edwards-Helaire. The next, what do I want to go next here? I would go Akers, Dobbins, Swift.
Wow,
so
you had
totally
Swift you almost reversed them.
Yeah.
On there. The thing about Taylor is he just Taylor and Dobbins to me are just straight ahead power runners.
You think Dobbins is a power runner?
In
what sense? Because he's not a speed guy.
You're not going to put an arm out on him and get through him. You're not going to put his shoulder on him. Yeah. I don't think, and bring him down. And
Yeah. No,
those are guys that to me don't necessarily. Of the two, Taylor's more the one that's more likely to give you that sidestep. I think his vision's a little bit better.
I agree.
Of the two, but neither one of those guys I don't think are going to do a lot of avoiding at the NFL level of guys in the backfield.
Yeah, no, I think that the best guys who can create something out of nothing were guys like Edwards, Hilaire, and Akers, and that's why I'm higher on them than maybe you might be, because I love their ability to create.
Okay, but
Because if you can do that, then when you have a line that's blocking well, and then mostly they did obviously in LSU because they had a really good offensive line. But if you can make those plays with bad blocking, then what are you going to do when you have good blocking? Like you're going to make big plays.
Hey, here's the thing that really stuck out to me the most about the Wisconsin tape and the Ohio State. Man, those guys had some huge holes to run through.
Right.
Whereas you don't really get to see the opportunity. And when you look at their tackles for losses, the percentage versus the rest of an explosive run, to me they just didn't do a lot of creating when forced with the adversity. I want to see the backs that can do the most with the adversity.
Exactly. Yeah, because any back can run behind a line that's blocking well and open up huge runways. I mean, that's easy, especially in college football. That's easy to do. That's why I love Edwards and especially Akers, because he had a crap line, he had a crap team, and this dude made a lot of plays, something out of nothing.
But I think Taylor's ability once he gets out in that open field, can definitely get you the 20 yards. I mean, look, we don't expect these guys to go 80 to the house in the NFL level,
No, well, I think a guy like Dobbins you would draft because of that big playability in the open field. Like I don't think he's that great at the first level, but he wins when he's in the second and third level in open grass one-on-one with a safety or a corner.
To me, like I said, I think it's Swift, and really, to be honest with you, I mean, those next four are really kind of tightly contested. I mean, when you're looking at, I expect all those backs to be off the board by the start of the fourth round.
Yeah, that's fair. What about Cam Akers in the third round? Do you think that's an option for Pittsburgh? Talked about second round a lot, but third round at 102. Gil Brandt's got him at 107, 117, whatever he had. Cam Akers at 102.
I don't see him going much quicker, faster than that.
Okay. Well, you said what? You said he's probably going to be gone by top of the fourth round. So
yeah, right.
We're getting bottom
right
third
around
round
in there.
Too.
Yeah.
So
I think Zach Moss is the one that's kind of out of place there. But that's just me.
Yeah. I just love Edwards because he's a really good route runner too. He really feels like a natural. I think he's very NFL day one kind of ready guy.
Look at draft by position though. I mean, is running back going to be is the running back class that much better than previous years?
Yeah, I think this is a good running back class. I think it's better. I think it's a lot better than last year's. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better than last year's. I'm trying to, let's see, where's the draft history by position here? I want to look at something real quick.
I think last year, Jacobs went in the first round. I think Miles Sanders was the next back to go to Philadelphia in the 40-50 range.
How many of these backs would you have taken over Jacobs?
I don't know how much I really watched Jacobs last year, though, to be honest. Jacobs was just a really freaky dude, really a lot of fun to watch, but a little more of a projection because he just didn't carry the load. I don't know.
You had last year. You had by the end of the third round, believe it or not. Boy, where did time go? 7 running backs were off the board by the end of the third round.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right for this year. We just the 5 we named plus Moss.
Yeah.
Plus another one. Yeah, I mean that.
And 2018, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In 2018 before the end of the third round. 2017, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in 2017 by the third round. 2016, only 4 were off the board. But let's see, 2015, another 8. So I guess we should expect 6, 7, 8 of them to be off the board by the end of the third round.
Yeah, and I do. Essentially, I do. Yep.
Okay.
And those 5 and Moss and Gibson, if you want to consider him a running back, and Darrington Evans might be a sleeper pick late third round. So
where did Gil have Gibson at?
Like 130 something, 134, I want to say.
Okay.
But it could be a play at 102 or 124.
All right. No, so we obviously differ on a few of the backs there.
But let's just see if they take any of these backs, and then we can talk about them more in depth if that time comes. But yeah, that was really helpful, I think, to get me to watch some of these guys and make sure I was focusing on some of these running back names.
All right, where to now?
I think that was actually one last thing. I'm continuing to motor through my what they look for study. I just did the tight ends for the first time ever. Let me pull it up because they just didn't draft not enough tight ends for me to really have like data to feel confident in making any sort of projection. And it still was tough this year because I've only drafted like 5 or 6, which I'll see my rants. But anyway, so the tight ends that fit perfectly, none. No tight end checked every single box, which is really weird because the criteria was pretty light. You said to be if you were a big guy, like you felt like you were guaranteed to make it. 3 though were 1 box away. Dalton Keene, who just missed in the length. Cole Kmet in the bench because he did not participate, and C.J. O'Grady from Arkansas, who missed the bench by 4 reps. So if you wanted the best that fit, no one fit perfectly, but Keene, Kmet, and O'Grady.
Okay, and I think of those guys, I think Kmet would be the one that probably would have the best chance, but you'd have to get him. You'd have to get him at 49 probably.
Probably, yeah, because he's probably going to be the first tight end off the board, and the first tight end off the board won't be there at 102. It's just not going to happen. Keene is interesting, and O'Grady's got off the field concerns, got suspended, left school. That's not going to be in play for Pittsburgh. But Keene, there's a name to really look at, I guess. Process of elimination would be Dalton Keene from the Hokies.
Where did Charlie miss?
Charlie missed in weight and length. Weight was close, but I think by a couple pounds. In length, he's got the T-Rex arm, so that's going to ding him.
Right. Okay.
Some other guys, Hopkins missed in weight and length. Alberto, bench and shuttles. I don't think he did the shuttles. Colby Parkinson in bench and broad, and Trotman in length. Just missed the length and just missed in the bench press as well.
Okay. All right. We would be surprised if they draft tight end still, right?
Yeah, the way things are looking with only 6 picks, it feels a lot less likely than some of these other positions. It's hard to argue at this point.
They're probably more apt to draft a running back than a tight end, right?
Yeah, just based on what they're doing right now. They're looking at a lot of running backs. So yeah, I think we're getting to that point. Sure.
All right, what else do we have?
That was, I think, everything aside from reader emails. Anything else you want to talk about, feel free to, but that's all I got.
Yeah, they have a Gil Brandt fathead.
They do. You're gonna buy it.
Nah, I just say you know how I am kind of with stats and track and stuff and contextualize and stuff and all. Just it floors me. And like I said, I'll write that up later on today and put a chart out there and obviously direct people so where they can view the top 150 for Gil that was released on Monday. How about we get to some emails, brother Alex?
Yeah, let's do it.
From JJ. Hey, guy, JJ from Lexington, Kentucky. Do you guys know what players Steelers have met with in person at the Combine or by video conference? I use that list to make my mock every year. Thanks for all the great work that you guys do. Stay safe. Well, JJ, we use those same lists usually, but unfortunately, no, we don't have full list here because of the way look, we obviously have some of the names from the Combine and all like that, but here's the thing. They're going to have a lot of informal meetings throughout the Combine. So it would be nice if we had a true list of more than just a handful of confirmed formal versus informal. Really the information that comes out of the Combine other than the numbers really, I don't know how much you use of it, Alex, but really, unless we know for sure that a player was a formal meeting, it's really kind of insignificant.
Yeah, I mean, because you said they're going to meet with so many of these guys. I mean, it's just the information was just so lacking. And we have some of the Combine stuff, the very little bit of the Pro Day stuff at the beginning before everything shut down, but it just feels kind of useless this year, to be honest.
It really does. And look, the video reports that are out there, few of them are coming from some questionable sources, as well. So, I mean, it's really even hard to build a list of more than 3 or 4 players on that, right?
Well, I trust some of the guys that done the interviews and have gotten that information. It just Pittsburgh doesn't seem to come up a whole lot because they didn't start until later in April or earlier in April, I guess, but later than most teams and kind of limited on how many guys you can interview. So it just it feels like they got late to the party and FaceTiming guys, and that's hurting them.
And other than the pro days, they made it to Clemson. They were going to go to Michigan, and obviously don't have pre-draft visits. So, JJ, look, I mean, this is just one of those years, brother. You know,
Mhm.
the best thing to do, I think, is to use your experience of guys that the Steelers you think like, and kind of go from there. I really a lot of what all that has happened during the pre-draft process so far, really outside of having some P-Spark numbers,
Mhm.
really hasn't been beneficial.
Yeah. Do you think that they would like a guy like Tanner Muse more because he's essentially one of the only few guys they met with at a pro day dinner? I assume they met with some other Clemson guys at that dinner, but do you think it kind of makes more of an impression because he's like the only guy that they talk to?
Look, I mean, Clemson. I'm not going to be surprised if they get a Clemson guy or a Michigan guy or an LSU guy in this draft.
Mm-hmm. Ditto.
I don't know. I don't know how else to put it other than that.
Yeah. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Where like, had they met with
Yeah,
10
but
other
we,
guys
we,
at
we
pro
don't
day?
we don't know who else was at it. Was John Simpson there?
Yeah. I mean, I assume there were others.
T.
Yeah.
Higgins.
Yeah.
It's too bad that no pictures have kind of surfaced from that at least to give us something of who was there. But I mean,
Mhm.
look, Tanner Muse, a guy we've talked about for several weeks now.
Yep.
Guy that you could definitely see in and want with one of those fourth round picks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you were at a Clemson steakhouse in March, let us know because let's know if Tomlin was there.
All right, John P. Blair writes in, Dave, I'm John Blair from Lodi, California. Stuck in Lodi by CCR. You don't even know what CCR stands for, do you, Alex?
Clearance Creedwater Revival, right?
Clearance Creedwater
What?
Revival. There you go. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you. All
Yeah.
right. That's the place. I'm sure Alex has no clue what that means. Well, he did. Alex
You're
surprised
wrong.
us there. I see a bad moon rising. Let's see. And do looking out my back door. Boy, I tell you a quick.
What's the big hit they have that every
I
song
want to
for?
know.
Yeah. Have
Have
you ever
you
seen The Ring?
ever
Yeah.
seen? Yeah, I tell you a quick story. I grew up. Luckily, I grew up in a time and an era where, obviously the coming out of the '60s into the '70s music, and obviously on into the '80s there. So I've got to experience a lot. I remember growing up. My old man had an old Sears reel-to-reel recorder. You probably, I know you've never seen one in action probably before, but
Yeah. No idea
you,
what you're talking
you
about.
know the old reel-to-reel recorder players and all. My old man had a lot of reel-to-reel audio stuff and Creedence Clearwater Revival. My dad had Creedence Clearwater Revival on albums on reel-to-reel. All right. So I remember hearing a lot of Creedence growing up in my house at an early age, a lot of Elvis, obviously, and all. So I'm still, you go back in time, and I can't help but sing along when some CCR comes on.
Fortunate Son was the song I was thinking of. That
Oh
classic.
yeah, Fortunate Son. Yeah,
Yeah.
but just so many great hits CCR had back in their day.
How
Anyway,
do you listen to music today? I mean, do you still have
all
the
digital,
record
man.
player?
No.
Yeah. You got a Spotify account or something? What do you do?
Google Play.
Okay.
That now, because right before we left Florida, I had a huge CD collection
Mm-hmm.
and tape collection. Now I still have a pretty good size album collection. I saved my vinyl, okay,
Yeah.
just because the the rarity and all like that. I kind of foresaw vinyl coming back, which it has now. And want to be able to listen. Just some things. Listening to vinyl gives you a different experience and all. But anyway, I sold off all my tapes, my cassettes, and CDs before I left Florida there because just too big to move and all like
Mm-hmm.
that and all. So, but nowadays I don't have the sentimental connection to like CDs or
Yeah.
cassettes and all like that. Now obviously I grew up in a time when Columbia House was big. So, some of my kind of early teen memories were the order 8 cassettes for a penny,
Oh wow.
Columbia House type deals and creating false names like IP Freely and Seymour Butts and all like those throughout the years and all. But but I don't know how we got on that CCR. But moving on. Does Dave T work for some NFL players? He said this, or teams. He said the Steelers and Patriots were working on a trade. The Steelers' 49th pick for 3 third-round picks and a 5th rounder. How would he know this? I like it if the top running backs, wide receivers, safety, and offensive line are all off the board. You could still get good value with the 23rd pick in the 3rd round. So where am I going wrong? Here's the thing. Dave T is, connected still heavily to the scouting industry, I think he hears stuff. I don't think he's heard stuff from potential teams. All right. It'll be interesting to see if him, any trade works out, let alone him talking about the Steelers and Patriots, working on a trade. I just think this far out, other than them maybe saying, look, we're willing to work with you on draft day. I think it's a little far out maybe to have something kind of more set in stone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Dave T. I assume he has some communication with teams and scouts throughout the draft process because he's giving info to teams. They're going to talk to him back. There's kind of a mutual relationship there. My understanding was he was not saying the Steelers and Patriots are working on a trade. He was saying that he's hearing that Belichick wants to move up. He's willing to trade his 3rd rounders, and Pittsburgh should do that. And it would make a lot of sense for them to work out that deal. Not that it's actually going to happen or in the works or discussions or anything like that. It was just based off of what he's hearing about what Belichick wants to do. So I think that's an important point of a clarification from the email.
And look, I mean, we could see definitely if the Steelers were, gotten, in a position in that 2nd round where, they could fall back and get one of those 6 or 7 guys, there maybe pick up another 3rd round pick or whatever in the process there would definitely be is something that you and I would golf clap about.
Yeah, because I think trying to do this stuff with 6 picks, one in the top 100, Colbert said last year that they want to have 2 picks on day 2. I know they technically have that this year, but that 102 just feels like a 3rd or 4th rounder. It feels like a day 3 pick. So if you want to go in Colbert's hole, let's have 2 picks on day 2. Again, I know they technically have it, but trading back and getting like 59 and 70 something and 102 would make a lot more sense.
All right, John Carter writes in to Dave and Alex. Hope all is well. My question concerns Cameron Sutton. How good is he, and how much better can he become? What should our expectations with him be heading into the season?
That's a really good question. I think Sutton really took a big step last year. I think it was kind of a make-or-break year for him, and I think his run defense, his physicality, his tackling all cleaned up, but his coverage skills improved as well, and he became the dime guy because of it. He'll basically be in that same role this year. How much better can he get? I mean, I don't know exactly how to answer that. I think he's proven to be a good cover corner and someone that's improved greatly against the run. Not that it's going to be his true calling card. Hilton's still better, but has definitely taken big steps there. So someone that I think can be a potential – maybe a starter for some team if he plays his way into a contract next season. I don't know, but he's playing really well.
I think we've kind of saw maybe what his ceiling could be last season.
Okay, how would you define his ceiling?
Just a guy that can play mostly inside for you. I mean, look, he has played some snaps on the outside. I don't know. I guess where I'm going with this, kind of a William Gay type player,
Yeah. Okay, so, but do you think he'd be a starter somewhere?
No, I don't.
No? You think he's a dime guy, sub guy?
Yeah, I think he's that's why I say I think you saw kind of his ceiling maybe last season, kind of being a sub-package guy.
Yeah, I think he has potential to be a nickel starter somewhere. It'll be interesting. I mean, I think one thing we don't talk about a whole lot is that Hilton and Sutton are in the last year of the contracts. Hilton on that tender and Sutton off his rookie deal, and you can't keep both. I mean, you try to keep one, but something to think about.
Right. Barring injury, we don't expect him to play more than, 300 snaps?
Well, for Hilton or Sutton?
Sutton.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I guess right now you're thinking how much dime they're going to play, and that sounds about right.
Yeah, so that's where we are on him. Yeah, I liked the Sutton pick more, the sooner after it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first 2 years were pretty rocky, but last year was the year he needed to have.
Mm-hmm. All right, Suleiman writes in, hey, Dave and Alex, hope all is well. I always enjoy the studies of what the Steelers look for in prospects, as well as the contextualizations that you guys have been doing for potential running backs that the Steelers could draft. And look, the reason I do those because Alex and I might not think that that's the way the Steelers could go. Doesn't mean that the Steelers won't go that way. So we had to have I thought Alex and I needed to have a little bit better understanding of at least the top 5 or 6 running backs. And I think over the course of the last 2 weeks we've done that, right?
I agree. Yeah, I hope so, and I think so.
And I think we've done that very, in an objective type fashion, correct?
Again, that's for other people to decide, but I hope so. I think so. I think it's what we attempted to do at least.
All right. He says, my question relates to the safety position. If the Steelers do draft Antoine Woodfield Jr. or Brandon Jones, do you see either of them making significant contributions in 2020? The reason I ask is although the defense was great last year, I feel like Terrell Edmunds is a weak link as he allowed a passer rating of over 100 on those throws in his direction. I feel like he may be better suited to play near the line of scrimmage rather than deep safety. With Minka wanting to move around more, I feel like getting a safety in Winfield or Jones to start alongside Minka with Edmonds being the nickel linebacker can better maximize his potential and improve the secondary and make it better than last year. What are you guys' overall thoughts? Thanks for taking the time. Answer the question. Continue to stay safe and keep up the good work. Look, I think whoever you draft this year, anybody coming out of this class, it's going to be hard to get that player on the field much, at least in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it would take an injury because your defense, your secondary is unchanged. We talked about that last show, how it's unchanged for the first time in a while. Like you have Hayden, Nelson, Minka, Edmonds, Hilton, Sutton. Those are your 6. And they're not moving. No one's getting replaced. If you draft a safety, Edmonds is still going to be your starter. You might not like it, but especially in a year like this where it's going to be tough for rookies, Edmonds is going to be your starter.
Yeah, it's just look, and I still think there's a good chance they could get a guy. We talked about this last night. Maybe we should recap guys that we really could see the Steelers drafting this year. Short list. I think Winfield's on it. I think Brandon Jones on it. I think Devin Duvernay's on it. Mims. I mean, who else?
Kayvon Wallace, John Runyon Jr.
Rager?
I'm warm up Pittman a lot. Rager. Yeah.
Pittman?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, there's
Reese.
Who else in that second to fourth round range?
Yeah. Cesar Ruiz at 49.
Ruiz, yeah. Cushenberry.
Yeah, Cushenberry. Trying to think some other names here. I mean, Jonathan Taylor. I think they would love Jonathan Taylor if he would have slipped, which I still don't think he's going to do, but I'm not going to discount it.
All right, so good question there. Let's see here.
Maybe we'll come up with a list. I might have an article on that next week to kind of put those thoughts out there.
Let's see. Tony from Virginia. Hey, guys, I'm Tony from Virginia. Alex posted an article this morning, and I guess this was yesterday morning, about Tomlin's schedule and the draft. This made me wonder, how is the NFL going to monitor their mandate that teams have to draft away from their staff? It seems like this could pretty easily be worked around by having staff members in the same house. It's not like these coaches have small one-bedroom apartments. What kind of repercussions do you think a staff would face at the NFL if they don't follow the mandate?
I saw a report, I think yesterday, the other day, that NFL is going to install cameras in the coaches and GM's homes, and that's how they're going to monitor things. So that's kind of crazy. But, yeah, they're going to monitor it. What repercussions a team could face, I don't know. A fine, potential loss of draft pick, I guess, the standard fare of punishment from Roger Goodell. But, yeah, they will be monitored with cameras.
I don't even. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But I think Alex answered that question perfectly for you there. Let's see. Jeff writes in, "Happy Monday. I really enjoyed the Dave T appearance and look forward to him coming back after the draft. What is your opinion about the ceiling of Mason Rudolph? I thought he made some very nice throws, but thought he was extremely hesitant to let go of the ball on many occasions. Is it lack of confidence that he can get through, or lack of vision that he won't get past? Does A.J. Dillon, running back from BC, have any value for the Steelers? Thanks, guys. Stay safe in Mom's basement." Jeff from West Virginia. Look, I think the too bad of thing about Mason last year is from the moment it had been nice to see him from the moment he got back in that Jets game, finish it out from there. Because I thought there were some definite good signs in the short amount of playing time that he played against the Jets. Prior to that, I still go back from the aspect of he was pressing way too hard, I thought, first and foremost. B, little things like not of seeing things late. Uh, you know, 4 or 5 games into it was a little bit concerning, especially on some crossing routes and some stuff like that underneath. His processing time did not speed up fast enough. And his pocket awareness, obviously was something that we talked about quite a bit. Not knowing when to step up, not knowing not when to, step up, that kind of thing. And look, he's going to have to start making some plays, manufacturing some plays. Something he did very, very little of at Oklahoma. There's tape of him extending plays, but there hasn't been enough at the NFL level of him doing that. And that's something in today's NFL that I really think a quarterback needs to be able to do. Going to have to have not every quarterback's going to be Big Ben or Patrick Mahomes or I don't know who's another one to throw in there.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers to some degree, yeah. In today's NFL, you've got to be able to extend plays, I think, and make plays that way, and he doesn't have that yet. So that's kind of where we are on him. But I did think that in that brief time against the Jets, he looked a lot more relaxed and looked more like the kind of the quarterback I thought he could be.
That's a good assessment. And that game, although it ended with an injury, gave a glimmer of hope to the overall question about where his ceiling is at. I mean, I still think it's hard to know that, and I really want to see him in camp. Hopefully this camp this year to see in preseason and see the strides he's made, because he just got, just beat around so much last year with such a difficult season for so many reasons. It's almost hard to evaluate. But obviously it's a lot tougher now to say that he's the future than it was when they drafted him. And so, he's going to have to really turn it on the heat here quickly and show something in preseason camp to prove that he can be that guy.
Hey, his time ticker right now, and it's really sad because there's a kind of an article, which player is most affected, which Steelers player is most affected by all this going on with the coronavirus and missing OTAs and all like that. Mm-hmm. And, I can only come up with 2, Mason Rudolph and Devin Bush.
I think I would go with a different one. I go with Chukwuma Okorafor. I think he needed an offseason like this. He got hurt last year because he had surgery last year, couldn't go through the offseason program as much. I think he really was a guy that could have used the springtime. Okay,
fair enough. But, I think Mason, look, you obviously don't want to get in a situation where you even have to think about using Mason this season.
Right. But the plan is he's going to be one snap away.
Right. And that's another argument why you should say that he really needs this offseason.
Yeah. He needed it. Yeah.
And then obviously Devin Bush look, we expect him to take that big step this year and be the defensive play caller and wear the green dot and all like that. Right. So those 2 guys would be at the top of my list there. But yeah, look, obviously, what are the odds that Mason's the quarterback for the next 10 years? Obviously not great based on what we've seen so far. But there was still that little glimmer of hope, I thought, in that Jets game. And once again, that's kind of where I leave it, is in those 30 or whatever snaps it was at the beginning of the turnaround there,
Right.
And really, we're probably going to be leaning on that, or at least we hope we're going to be leaning on that for a while, there. So, I know that's a lot of different thoughts in there, but, kind of where he left off at is kind of, you wonder, can he pick up from that point there?
Yeah, it's fun. We just talked about how big of a year this past year for Cam Sutton it was. I think it's similar for Rudolph, again, not because he may not play a lot in regular season. Hopefully he doesn't play much in the regular season, but just in preseason and camp overall, because if he can't prove it this year, it's time to start looking for another quarterback, and he could be drafting one in 2021.
And look, if they draft a quarterback this year, that would tell us a lot about, which we don't think they're going to do. But if they draft a quarterback this year, that Rudolph just might as well go to him and say, you mind about shipping me out of here somewhere?
Right.
At that point, but that would tell us a lot. And B, next year's, if they don't draft a quarterback this year, which we don't think they will, if they draft one next year, That will tell us a little bit more about it, especially if they draft one in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah, and I think how well Mason does in 2020 in preseason and camp determines what their path is for quarterback in the 2021 draft.
Right, and once again, it's sad that it doesn't look like he's going. It looks like it's going to be hit the ground running at training camp, and that might be it. So that there's a lot riding. There particularly could be there specifically could be a lot riding on Mason in training camp and the preseason.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, he's at least a third-year guy. Like, the spring would have been nice. It would have been helpful if he'd lost something from that. But he's not a second-year guy in that classic sophomore year where the spring would have been extra important to him. I don't know how much you're going to learn in the spring with Mason, but in camp and preseason, it'll be critical.
Let's see. From Ryan, right, saying, during the last podcast, I heard you guys commenting that the Steelers can only interview 10 or so prospects since they started late. The way I'm reading the rules seem like they can interview as many prospects as they want, but can only contact with an individual up to 3 times a week. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I just want to point out how I understood them. Teams can talk with prospect by phone or computer up to 3 times per week. For a maximum of an hour per session. Brian, let me tell you what the way I interpreted it, and maybe Alex interpreted it different, is that they can only interview up to 3 players per week for up to an hour.
That was my interpretation, which I may be wrong at. I'm not looking at the language of what the NFL said, but that was my initial interpretation of it. What was yours?
He says there are no limits on the number of times a particular prospect can be contacted through April 22nd, the day before draft, within the rules of 3 times per week and an hour per session. There are no limits to the number of total prospect with whom teams can speak. However, teams mainly are targeted in their approach. I'd have to go back and read the exact language, and I might be wrong on it, but the way I interpreted it, Ryan, was they could only contact up to 3 players a week.
Mm-hmm. Because there's got to be a limit on the number of guys you can talk to, just the way there's a limit on the number of guys you can bring in for a pre-draft visit. 30. So I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter a whole lot. But
yeah, I mean, we're this late in the process now. In short, to be honest with you, if they had more than 30 video conferences, I would be surprised.
Me too.
And in fact, I'm willing to bet it's more about half that number, but I might be wrong. Unfortunately, we're probably never going to know the answer to a lot of that. A lot of those questions.
Yep, unfortunately. I wish the NFL would mandate that stuff would have to be public. That'd be nice for us to know.
Joseph writes in question. Let's see. Which one is this? April 11th, Saturday. After listening to Dave T on the podcast, I went back and watched Malcolm Perry film. I changed my draft up. Let's bump Roy to the 4th round and slot Perry in the 6th. I don't agree with Dave T on Roy in the 2nd or 3rd. We're with you on that. I think Alex and I said as much, that we thought Roy in the 2nd or 3rd was a little ambitious. I'm anxious for Brandt's top 150 to come out on Monday. Let's see if he cracks into the top 150. I didn't see Roy in the top 150. Did you?
No, I'm pretty sure he wasn't there.
This should give a better indication. What about Malcolm Perry?
I don't think he was either, but I think he's more of a day 3 guy. There's no issue with him in service, right? Didn't they change that rule where guys, military guys can go to play in the NFL, play in their sport?
I thought so, that they could go play in the NFL. No.
Okay. I believe that got changed. So that'll be helpful for his stock, obviously. I don't know a whole lot about him other than he was like that option quarterback running attack. I don't know. That'd be interesting.
And he ends his email saying, "Thanks, lover boy."
People got a kick out of that one.
Did Dave drop the lover boy on me more than once?
At least once. I don't know about twice, but at least once, and people laughed at that.
Rick, Steelers quarterback. Hey guys, this is Rick from Virginia. Love the podcast. Always lots of good information. A few questions I have. What's the chance the Dolphins will release Josh Rosen? I really feel he hasn't had the chance to show what he can do with a quality team. What's the chances the Steelers would jump on him if released? Are there any thoughts of getting an app for the website? I don't even know if that's possible or realistic. Again, love the show. Keep up the good work. An app's been on the back burner for a while. I mean, I don't know when we're going to get to that, to be honest with you, Rick. What about Josh Rosen?
I don't see what the incentive for Miami to release him. They just traded for him. He's cheap. I know they're probably going to take a quarterback, but what's the point of like releasing Rosen now? If he did, hypothetically, could the Steelers be interested? Maybe. I really wouldn't expect it, but I don't see any reason, incentive for them to release Josh Rosen.
Me either. I wish I could find the guy that claims that he has inside information for us.
What's that?
A listener claiming I can't find the email.
What inside information did he have?
He told us that they're going to draft a quarterback.
Oh, okay.
I wish I could find.
This was in an email, or
yeah, it's one that I hold on here.
So
I am going to. Okay, here it is. This is from Mark Jackson, from listener Mark Jackson. He's got some inside information for us, Alex.
When was this sent?
Like 13 days ago. I'm sorry. You would have changed up your mock draft, probably.
Let me go back and edit it.
Yeah, Mark Jackson writes in, I'm going to tell you guys the biggest secret in our inner circles. Thank me later. We are going to pick a quarterback regardless of what other positions are on the board for our pick. Now, who do you think will be on the board? This is literally a softball. I'll check back in next week. Love the show, guys. Best in the biz, and I mean that.
So he's saying at 49.
I guess, yeah.
I said regardless of who else is on the board. That seemed to imply 49. All right. Well, Marcus.
And he says, now who do you think will be on the board? This is literally a softball, and he's got softball in quotation marks here. So
I doubt is there an implication there. I mean, Jalen Hurts, is that?
I'm guessing he's pointing towards Jalen Hurts. So we've been sitting on this inside information here since April 1st.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't expect it, but if we're wrong, we're wrong, and we'll be right.
I mean, look. I mean, we're obviously look. We don't think that that's going to happen, but if it does, we'll talk about it like we do everything else, and evaluate the pick and go from there. So
I like Hurts as a player, just for the record. I've always been high on him as a prospect.
I'm not second round high on him. I'm fourth round. I'm fourth to fifth round on him.
Okay.
Personally, I just don't think he processes well, and I think that's a key. That's a key point. And I don't like how he didn't stay at Alabama and compete for his job. Be honest with you.
I more agree to the first point than the second point, but fair enough.
All right. Be interesting to see where he goes. Gil Brandt obviously has him in his top 100. So there you go. All right, I think we got through a lot of these, Alex, here, so I think that's a good stopping point at about an hour and 45 minutes until what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Uche finally on Friday.
I guess I'll bring my sword.
You better sharpen up your tools. They're getting pretty dull right now. What else can we talk about on Friday?
I'm sure something will come up. When's your mock draft schedule? You're doing just one more now? I forget.
I'm only doing one more. I'm about mock draft out already.
All right, cool. We'll have a lot of the other guys from the site, Josh and Tom and them. We'll do mock drafts as well. I don't know. We'll find something to talk about. I don't know what we're going to talk about, though.
All right, who you got coming up on the study, on the positions Steelers? What do they look for study?
I think we only have one left. I'll have to go back and double check. We have inside linebacker, though, and there are some names that fit this time, so we won't have nothing to talk about. We will have something to discuss, and there are some interesting names that did make the list.
All right, sounds good. All right, here we go. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, let me know what you think about the Gil Brandt and what he's accomplished over the years. And if you find value in the top 100 or 150, or if I'm just off my rocker and needing something to focus on at an old age and can't get off that, I really enjoy that. And I'll write about that. Like I say, I'll have an article on Steelers Depot about kind of his past results later today. You can, if you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to the site and hit the ad-free button, upper right navigational bar for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com as well. We'll get back after it again on Friday. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.